Welcome to Western Perspective. I'm Madeline Lombardi. 2022 has been a significant year, and with the year drawing to a close, we mark a sad ending. After around 27 years in the Multicultural Migrants Resource Centre, they will be closing their doors and transferring all of their services and clientele to the Multicultural Services Centre of Western Australia. Multicultural and diverse communities' needs are assured into the new year, as many of its service models and people remain unchanged. I've spoken exclusively with MSC WA Executive Director Ramdas Karan and MMRC's Vice Chair Lena Bakshi.
The decision for the closure has been coming for a while, but somewhere in maybe June, we as a committee realised that this was untenable and that we would have to take some really hard decisions. And that's when we sought out, I suppose we could have returned the money, but we sought out organizations. We decided that we would make sure that the services would continue, and that's why we're having this conversation, I suppose, today. And that's when we sought out organizations that were kind of like-minded and doing the kind of work we were.
I think what we talked about in our last interview as well was that with the closure of this, that bigger organisations like government-funded staff and things like that, they weren't considering local and small communities as well. Is that something that's quite upsetting with the closure of MMRC?
Well, I suppose on the one hand it's sad to see something that's been around for 27 years go. On the other hand, I suppose I sleep well at night knowing that, all of the staff that we have a job, are employed still, so the skills are still in the sector. MSCWA have those skills now, so we haven't lost that, and we haven't lost the services because there's a like-minded organization that has now taken over those services. So in that sense, I sleep well at night. On the other hand, yes, everything that's tiny, small, that has a kind of understanding of what's, has a finger on the pulse of a community, the loss of it is always sad because, you kind of lose this knowledge of what's happening. Having said all of that, MSCWA also has services in the very area that we used to service, so it kind of feels like a continuation of a different form.
So it's being passed on to MSCWA.
Yeah, look, I think the point that Lena just made is a very valid and important one, and that is this, because most people, when things like this happen, are understandably sad, disappointed, concerned, mainly because of the uncertainty of the future of those services. What has happened in this case is it has been an absolute seamless transfer of all the funded programs. They had another program which was, not totally funded, which is the immigration program. That unfortunately, was not tenable for us to take it on. It was too expensive. But all the other programs have been taken on. And virtually all the staff that came, that were implementing those programs have come across to us. So no one should actually notice anything other than when they front up in an office, the door would say Multicultural Services Centre and not Metropolitan Migrants Resources Centre, because the programs and the people who delivered them, there's no change.
That's good that it's had a seamless transition as well, because I remember, Lena, your concerns when we were chatting before was that a lot of these people kind of go to services that aren't run by multicultural people, that don't have that, as you were saying, community outreach. People don't know people don't understand the culture if it's not people from that culture discussing these issues or sorting out these issues. So it's good that there's that seamless transition.
Look, I agree, and that this is, in fact, the most important reason why, the board and I, respect the decision that the MMRC board took, because as Lena mentioned early in this piece, they could easily have given the money back to the funding bodies, and had they done that, then it would have been the funding bodies that would have then distributed the money to whoever they chose fit. Would they have come to MSC and delivered it the way MMRC did so? I doubt it. That's not how it works. It would have taken much longer to resolve the whole thing. It would not have happened as seamlessly as it is happening now.
I think that's the sad.
Can I?
Yeah. Sorry, you go.
Can I just add to that? And I think it's important, and I want to add to that, because when we started this conversation about, so what do we do with all of this? There were a few mainstream organizations, and I'll call them mainstream for lack of another word, who we did consider. But then again, you just become a tick box in terms of like a diversity client rather than the main focus. And so our focus very much was that it had to be a like-minded agency. It had to service the kind of people for exactly the same reasons that I mentioned to you the last time.
Porting across the main telephone numbers of MMRC, the staff telephone numbers will remain the same. The emails, if anyone send an email to the old MMRC email address of a staff member, it'll end up on the new email at MSC. So we've done everything we can so that people honestly will not notice much changes happen. And physically, they still will be in Mirrabooka. So as I said,
that's the other advantage, absolutely.
We look, I think what these kind of arrangements do help in the medium and longer term is the possibility of extending outsourced services further up north. We've already talked to North Metro TAFE, so it's a good chance that we could be operating out of Balga TAFE, but we well and truly want to offer services much further north. So sooner or later that's going to happen.
And you can read more about this story on our website, wamnnews.com.au. And now here is Pastor Peter Abetz to share a Christmas message to mark this festive season.
Well, Christmas is upon us. People have been busy, schools are finished, people have done their Christmas shopping, holiday plans are in place, Christmas dinners are being planned. But what is Christmas actually all about? With Scripture no longer being taught in most of our state schools, many children have no idea what Christmas is about other than perhaps Santa. But the reality is that Christmas is actually celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ nearly just over 2,000 years ago. Now, you might say many babies have been born in the last 2,000 years, so why do we bother celebrating this one? Well, there are a number of aspects to the story of Jesus. The one is that he was born in abject poverty. Some of you would know the story, how he was laid in a manger because there's no room for him and his mum in the inn. And so he was born in a stable. That means animal manure around, flies, mosquitoes. And he was laid there in that manger. And yet, despite growing up in such abject poverty, he went on to be the greatest influencer of all time. Historians of whatever persuasion would all agree that there is no one who's influenced humanity as much as Jesus Christ. So that's definitely worth celebrating. Now, Jesus, of course, went on to be a great teacher. He modelled for us how God wants us to live. And we all know that Jesus showed great compassion and love and care to those that were the down and outs, the destitute, those that were, if you like, the rejects of society. And his followers who followed his teaching, they also took it upon themselves to show love and compassion to those around about them. And they actually transformed the ancient world. Some of you may know that Christianity originally was a forbidden religion in the Roman Empire, but by 313 AD, it became a tolerated religion. By 384, it became the official religion of the empire. Why? Because Christians who embraced the teachings of Jesus showed so much love and compassion for those around about them that other people took so much notice. One of the governors who had the job of trying to eradicate Christianity in the Roman Empire, he wrote to the emperor in Rome and said, we cannot get rid of the Christians because they're so loved, because they not only look after their own poor, but they look after our poor as well. When there were epidemics, it was the Christians who went out and took the people who others had thrown out on the street and took them into their homes to look after them, because to them, to show love and compassion to their fellow human beings was more important than to actually even be alive. And many of the Christians actually died from looking after those kinds of people. So Christianity has had a massive influence on our society. But Jesus came not only just to be an example, he also came to restore us into relationship with God, because Jesus was not just a cute baby, he was also the Son of God. And through his life, he demonstrated how we should live, but he also, as you would know, went to the cross, and we celebrate that on Good Friday and Easter when he rose again. And that was about restoring us into relationship with God. And for Christians, that's the exciting thing about Christmas, is that this was the beginning of this great healing that was to take place by the coming of the Son of God into the world to restore us into relationship with God. And how life transformational that is, we see that in history. And I just wish you all a very happy Christmas, and encourage you to perhaps pick up, dust off your old Bible, have a read of the first few chapters of Luke's Gospel, and remind yourself of that Christmas story.
That's Pastor Peter Abetz, and now a brief weather update. A warm Christmas is definitely an Australian tradition, but get this, the usual high temperatures in the 40s are replaced with 27 on Monday, 25 on Tuesday, before hitting 29 on Wednesday and 30 degrees on Thursday. Meanwhile, overnight temperatures will stay below 20 degrees, with Wednesday night hitting a low of 13. And that's all from Western Perspective for this week and for 2022. Thank you so much for your viewership. For the premium exclusive reports, feature stories, opinion pieces and weekly podcasts, please subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club, available every weekend. Support independent journalism and keep democracy strong. See you back in the new year. Back to you, Ivan and Melly.
Thanks, Maddie. And now here's Leo with what's coming up on 6 News tonight.
On 6 News, the post-Christmas heatwave set to begin as Aussies celebrate December 25 with family and friends. Anthony Albanese thanks those working today in his first Christmas message as PM, and more than a dozen people dead and 200 million affected as Americans are hit by a massive winter storm. You can see the latest details live on our YouTube channel. Just search 6 News AU to find it, or head to our website, 6newsau.com. For now though, guys, it is back to you. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, Leo. And that's our weekly news and current affairs. We have the latest news on our website, wmnnews.com.au.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WAMN Extra News Club so we can continue our work in the community. Full details on wmnnews.com.au/news/extra. And it'll be lovely to have your support during this festive season. Melly, where has time gone?
I have no idea. It's flown completely by.
It has, because this is our final program for 2022. Now, our normal news service will return on the 11th of January 2023. This program will return on the 15th of January 2023. Meanwhile, the WAMN Extra News Club will continue its regular podcasts and weekend articles during our service break. From Melly and myself, wish you good health, good night, Merry Christmas, and see you in the new year.
Thanks for watching, and we send love to those you love. Good night.
Good night.